Welcome into Echoes Through Eternity, Season 3. I am your host, Dr. Jeffrey D. Skinner, and I am joined in the studio today by two incredibly, I think they're probably the busiest ladies on the planet. But they two great ladies that just happened to run into our paths crossed, I think around Christmas time of last year at a Youth for Christ Christmas dinner. My wife is a teacher. She volunteers. She is I don't know, the sponsor teacher or something for the club at her school. And so all I know is she has to be there at like 7 a.m. on like the third Wednesday of the month for a bunch of kids to get in her room. And she even did it online through COVID. And so she's committed to that. Chrissy, one of the owners of Sourced, which is the company that these two ladies work for. They are a back office services company. And anyway, she was there. It was her home, lovely home, just a fantastic host. She and I got to talking and discovered that not only did we have a mutual love for the Lord, but we had a mutual love for foster kids and for children in general. Both of my children are adopted out of foster care. We just happened to get our daughter when she was 2 days old. My son was 3.5 years old when we got him. He was a Hurricane Katrina refugee. Maybe one day I'll interview him, but he doesn't remember anything about it. But and right now he might be an interesting guest since I'm a pastor, but I might be a little bit afraid of what he'd say. But anyway, but anyway, that's enough about that. But just two wonderful ladies here: Gabrielle Mills, Chrissy Strohmeyer of Source. Like I said, they're a back office services company. Their website is getsourced.com. Right. And so you can go there and hear about all their services. They've got a history there, their story. But today we have them in the studio. And so you don't have to go to their website right now. You can just listen to them tell it. And so welcome in, ladies. It is so fantastic to have you here. Thank you for making time.
Thank you for having us. Thank you.
And full disclosure, I do use them for marketing. I have a missional leadership coaching nonprofit company our organization that I run. I utilize them for my marketing. Hired them a couple of months ago. They're doing a fantastic job. Jason and Maureen are two of their folks that help, part of the team there that help me out, do fantastic work. But I still pay them. We're not trading anything for this, and I'm not getting any benefit from saying nice things about them in any way.
They're paying us,
Jeff. So I just want everybody to know, yes, I am their customer. No, I have no benefit. Other than just, maybe an extra jewel in my crown when I get to heaven one day, that for saying nice things about these ladies. What I say comes from the heart, and I truly believe everything that I say about them. But please, if you are a business owner, I encourage you to check out their website. They do fantastic work. So welcome in, ladies. It is so good to have you. I'm finally going to shut up and let you talk.
Well, what do you want to know, my friend?
Yeah, so tell us. I said a little bit about Source, but you are your best ambassadors for your brand. So talk a little bit about what you do, and then we'll get to how it grew out of that, and then we'll talk about how you use that for the Lord. Because one of the things that I like to do, and really focusing on this season, is echoing the voices of people like yourselves who are in the marketplace or in the workforce. But they don't necessarily walk around with their Bible in their hand saying, hey, guys, let's gather in the break room at 9 o'clock in the morning to do a devotion. They don't, a scripture or Jesus, except maybe saying, Jesus, I can't believe I'm so busy. It may not necessarily...
might say that a lot.
It may not leave our mouths in a way that it should sometimes, but we know that we're being a witness for him in the workplace there. And everybody that I'm interviewing so far this season is about that. They're not professional clergy. God has called us out. God says, go. And we read that Great Commission, go into all the world and make disciples. We read that as go into the world, like we're doing, go to Africa or go to India, and we're going to, go to the other side of town or on the wrong side of tracks. We're going to go somewhere else to preach the gospel, to make disciples. When we look at that, real translation, though, it's more like as you go, as you're living your life. So as you are doing what I have gifted you to do. So if that's to be an accountant, as you're an accountant, live your life, make disciples, preach the gospel. As you're a carpenter, as you do hammer your nails, as you build your houses, as you build factories, as you do these things, preach the gospel, make disciples, right? That's what it's about. So that's the focus of this season. So those are kind of the three areas I want to talk about is your call, how God got you into this area here, how you use that to be a blessing to others and your gifts and be a witness for the Lord. And then the story, and then talk about what your company does. And then Chrissy, you do a ton of volunteer work, like I said, with Youth for Christ, as well as the community children.
Connections Homes.
Connections Homes. Yeah. Connections Homes. I wrote it down and then I turned the page on my notepad here. And so a lot of good that did. But anyway, so talk about those four things there. So anyway, Gabrielle, talk a little bit about Sourced. What all you guys do.
I can certainly do that, Jeff. So Sourced is a back office services company, and we serve entrepreneurs and business leaders in the small to mid-market segment. And what we've learned, so I guess it really starts with our story of how we started Sourced and how we came up with the idea of what we do. We have 5 services within our business: accounting, HR, talent acquisition, administrative support, and marketing. All of those things are within the back office, which is why we say we do back office professional services, right? But when Chrissy and I set out to start this business, that is so not what we thought we were going to end up doing. Really, what happened is that God spoke to me and he said, Gabrielle, I want you to be an entrepreneur. I want you to start a business. And I just thought that was super groovy. And I called her and I was like, oh, by the way, Chrissy is my mom. I don't think we've said that yet. So I am Chrissy's daughter. She's my mama. So after this moment where God spoke to me, I obviously called my mom and I was like, guess what happened? And it was really cool. And she was like, hey, so what kind of business are you thinking about doing? And I said, well, he didn't tell me that. He didn't really go there. But we kind of decided in that conversation that we wanted to do it together, and that was always her dream, and it has recently became my dream as of that time. And so we decided to become business partners. And we looked at all sorts of different franchises. We knew we wanted to be B2B. We knew we wanted to have a team of people and be the reason to create jobs and put bread on people's tables. I was a product of the recession. The earlier recession, not the one we're in now. And so we wanted to be a little bit of recession resistant. And we wanted to have a fun business and we wanted to have recurring revenue. So that was important too, but we wanted it to be really fun. And so we went on this multi-year journey trying to figure out from a franchise perspective what that would be. And we just didn't find it anywhere. We got close on a couple, but it wasn't for us. Right. And God was just, every time we got close, he just kind of closed the door. And we were very frustrated at times, but he always knows what he's doing. And so it got to be that we were at this crossroads of like, okay, so we're no longer going to do the franchise thing anymore. We have this money that we were going to give to a franchisor to buy the model. So we still have that. Do we want to just say that was a really cool experience that mothers and daughters don't ever get to do together, and that's just a fun story and we'd be grateful for it? Or do we want to roll the dice and say, all right, we have this money. Why don't we just invest it in ourselves doing something and see if we can make something of it? So we threw caution to the wind, and we did. But in doing that, we also looked at each other and we're like, so what do you want to do? And we were like, oh. So our big idea, because we were so smart at the time, I say facetiously, was we went around to as many business owners that would let us in the building and Google. And we tried to figure out where businesses were underserved and how we could help them. And if people wanted to do it all over again, what would they do? And we put all their thoughts up on a whiteboard, and back office services kind of came out of that. Now, we weren't smart enough at the time to realize that's what we were looking at. We just kind of meshed together a bunch of services and just started going. Granted, we did take 6 months to build the business first. We had people that wanted our support. So we didn't open for another 6 months after we came up with the concept, but we didn't know it was back office, quote unquote, back office related until probably year number 3 or 4.
Yeah.
I don't think we were the brightest crayons in the box, but we just keep on going. And so that's really the story of Sourced. And now we are very blessed to be able to provide these business services to really the best people in the world, the entrepreneurs that are doing the hustle and grind every single day. They're trying to make a living for their families. They're trying to live a dream for themselves. They're trying to have the American dream. They're just the salt of the earth people in the best way. And those people need help. And they need support, and they can't make their dream a reality on their own. You just can't. You need people, and running a business, as you know, Jeff, is really hard to do. And we want to make that a little easier for people. So that's why we do the services that we do. And that's why we have all of those different services under one roof. A lot of people thought we were absolutely crazy for having them all, but we said, no, like there could be a business leader who needs just HR support, but there also could be one that wants talent acquisition and accounting. That's so random, but you can find it in the same place with us. So we're really there to help businesses succeed, help people grow, help them not only create opportunities for themselves, but create opportunities within our own doors, right? That's why we get up out of bed in the morning, and that's kind of our story of how we started.
And having the fractional services are nice. So when businesses are a little smaller, that they can use fractional services. They don't need every position to be full time. And so we can provide better pricing on a fractional level. And as they grow, and we've seen businesses over the years grow to where it's like, now I need talent acquisition, which usually does full-time roles for people. So we've got everything, again, under one roof to help somebody to grow. So it's been a thrill to see clients over the years like build up because we've been able to support them on the journey. And that's just such a thrill.
It is. It's sad losing them as a monthly client, but it's great to say, fly, little bird. Like, we'll get you someone great. We'll help train them. And then they've got their team of people. But at the same time, that's not always what happens. Sometimes very more mid-market clients will come to us and they'll say, I've got 2 and 3 roles that we need to hire for. And we say, you really don't. You can outsource it for less.
We did that just today.
Just today. So we end up helping their bottom line significantly when they outsource parts of or their whole departments even. So we serve the smallest of the small, really, once they're ready to delegate. There's some things you got to go through. But the larger clients really find value in us too because we help save them money.
Yeah. I mean, it's cheaper to hire you. What I found is cheaper to hire you guys than it is to hire an employee. And for me, it was, I'm using all these various places out there to try and, create my images for my marketing. And I'm trying to come up with the marketing myself. And then I've got this other company that provides employees that will do this. And so the attraction for me was, like you said, everything under one roof. And I have the capacity to grow with you guys. So as my needs increase, you guys can do more than just marketing for me. You can do the background, the back office of accounting and things like that as well. And then of course nonprofits are unique in and of themselves because they're not existing for profit. They're existing more for ministry type purposes there. So I have certainly found it useful and can second everything that you said there. Love the story and how often is it that mom and daughter get to work together? And so
for us, every
although we're in back-to-back offices, and there are days that I don't get to see Gabrielle because I'm on calls, but overall, we're a company who likes to serve people. Like everybody in our organization, in fact, Gabrielle and I onboard everybody who comes into our organization. We're on that first call, so they know who we are. And it's really amusing when we talk with them, and they're all over the country too. But we say, somewhere in your interview, you said, I like to help people. And so, and you'll see their eyes light up and them going, yes. And I'm like, that's why we hired you,
Right.
Obviously for the expertise too, but we hire people who like to serve others. And that's the secret sauce for us, because it's about serving. It's not about the money.
Yeah.
The money everybody needs. You got to be able to pay your bills, but it's a service organization, and that's we say that in our value. There's no higher purpose than that for us.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, and it's one theme, and it's funny because I heard this, and I told the last guest that I interviewed the same thing. I can't remember where I heard it, so we'll just give God the credit, right? Because He created all things anyway, even our brains. Therefore, He tangentially gets credit for anything that we do or say. I'm being funny, but I don't know who said it, but essentially it was, show me someone whose purpose they think is, for their organization is simply to make money, and no matter how much money they have, I will show you someone who's miserable. Show me someone whose purpose is to serve others, but simultaneously happens to make a little money while serving them. I'll show you someone who's thriving in life and extremely happy with their life. And we can point to millionaires and billionaires across the landscape out there who got all kinds of money, and ultimately they end up becoming philanthropists or something in order to find their purpose. Otherwise, they kill themselves, and that's sad to say. But they're just so miserable, and you're thinking, how can you be miserable with that much money? And the answer is because money's not what makes you happy. Money may facilitate you making others happy, and that will make you happy because you're doing what God has called you to do, and that is to make a difference in other people's life. You're making disciples. You're serving others. Jesus had all the power in the world. He was God incarnate, but the Bible tells us He came to serve. And I think that's the message I want to get across this season and echoes through eternity is, look, at no time in my life has there ever been a greater mission field, especially within the United States, for Christians to be servants, as opposed to, you can still be a leader. There's servant leadership, but seek to serve first. And that's what I like about Source. That's what I like about your company. And Chrissy, that brings us back to, you put your money where your mouth is, so to speak. You serve on all kinds of boards. You serve, I mentioned Youth for Christ. You're on their board. You serve with the foster care people, that community connections, children.
Connections Homes, yes.
Connections Homes. Man, I can't get that. I don't know why I'm having a mental block on that. Connections Homes.
Organization that it does serve foster kids is where my heart is, and it has been for a very, very long time. But Connections Homes helps, as foster kids age out of foster care, where do they go? What do they do? Who you find so many of them going to jail or getting pregnant, and those kids are into foster care. Connections Homes really stops that in its tracks, and it has proven it over the years. I think we've been in business. I'm a founding board member for 8 or 9 years now. I don't remember how many, but we provide mentoring families for those youth who are aging out of foster care or who are homeless. Let's say somebody goes in their church and they contact Connections Homes and says, here's this youth who has nobody else. So where do they go? How do they know how to sign a lease? How do they know how to buy a car? We actually connect them with people who are right for them. They get to pick it. So if somebody wants to be a doctor, we try to connect them with people in the medical field who can mentor and shepherd them. And the success rate is crazy. I won't share all of that with you, but I tell you what, it really lifts up young adults because they're not kids anymore. And I was a foster parent for over 10 years, but it actually takes them the commitment is forever. Like the mentoring families sign up forever to be in this youth's life. And the things that happen in that organization are amazing. We started in Georgia. We have it in Georgia, in Texas, and it just coming on board in Tennessee. So there's a lot of foster kids out there who need somebody. Everybody used to say, and I got into fostering, like literally becoming a foster parent because an 18-year-old, people would say they should know. And I'm like, how do they know if they were never taught? And so this actually provides that basis for them to know and have somebody to call on for support.
And it's actually speaking on that part about how do they know if they were never taught.
Yeah.
Chrissy has kind of broken that down for me over the years of like, what does this insurance deductible mean? Like, how do you change a tire? Or what happens with my savings? So like, if I what bills do I pay first? So it's a lot of things that you don't ever really think about. Like what's an interest rate? Like these things are never taught in school. They should be. But when she would break that down for me right in the beginning, I'm like, oh my gosh, yes, I always would go to my parents to be like, how do I file these taxes?
Right.
What's HB block? What? That's somewhere for them to go and I don't think people really realize that because we're all busy doing our own lives.
Yeah.
But someone had to tell us.
Yeah,
you're right.
Even in our own organization, we have that same type of desire to, when somebody makes a mistake, you were talking about that, is that we find out, do they know? Are they aware? Do we need to retrain? Do we need to what? It's not a personal thing. It's really hey, let's find out where your knowledge base is, so then we can help you out with that. So it's never personal. It's business, but it's also human to say, you know what? Maybe you don't know. Let's think of that first.
Yeah.
That's the first thing we always do. Do you know? And so I think that's just really important. But the organization was started by Pam Parrish out of Victory World Church. She had a thought of doing this. And when I met her and she asked me to be on board, I was like, absolutely. This is why. And it's been a thrill to watch them grow and just grow. And to really now go out to other states. And we're going to continue to grow because there's more and more youth that just needs somebody. And these are people who may have a parent still, but they're maybe they're addicts or they're not there for them. But now they have true parents. And I have one of my daughters who is officially being adopted next month, but she's been with me since she was 13, 14 years old. She was my first foster daughter. And I'm really her connections home. She has a mother, and her mother's an addict and doesn't really connect with her. But I've been in her life and walking that journey with her for 11, 12 years.
Wow.
And she sees me as her mother. She calls me her mother. She tells me her mother I'm her mother. And so and the girl is a superstar. Like I can talk all day about her. She's a superstar. And she got it because somebody breathed life into her. She was an F student on the street with nobody in her life. And now all of a sudden, like she's the top salesperson and she sells insurance, which is really hard to do. And last month she wasn't the top person and she was really upset about it. She's the top person, but she has kind of learned, and her husband, she's married now with 2 children, has said she remembers every single lesson you taught her. Every single lesson. So
that's great.
It's a really good story. And I'm finally glad to adopt her officially because we're kind of awkward. She's my first foster daughter and whatever. And so for me, that's where we made the connection at Youth for Christ. You have 2 that you've adopted. She'll be my 3rd that I've adopted.
Wow.
So
how about that? Yeah.
Yeah,
that is and again, that was the reason I wanted you guys on, because you're exceeding your call, I guess you could say. I mean, you're making a difference in so many different places. It's not just in the marketplace. I mean, you're busy as you can be just running the business, but you also take time and carve out time to serve on these boards and pour into other people's lives. And I think that's a testament to us all and a reminder to us all that, you know what, we do what we want to do. We can be busy. That becomes a kind of an excuse to well, I don't want to do this. I can just say I'm busy. And also wear it sometimes as a badge of honor. I'm busy. But I think stewarding our schedule is a better way to say it. And you do a great job of stewarding your schedules. You still make time to serve in the community while simultaneously serving people through your business. And that's why I wanted you guys on. It's just incredible there. And but the payoff, I mean, the legacy that you have when we're able to pour into people. And I need to connect you. You didn't mention Alabama. I need to connect you with Big House Foundation. And that was started by the daughter of Hayden. That's my youngest, the one that was 2 days old when we adopted her. She's now 16. Her siblings were adopted by another couple in Opelika, Alabama. Their daughter started Big House Foundation, which is a resource for adoptive parents. You guys, your people would be that at Connections Homes would be the next logical step for them to partner with there.
Yeah.
Because there's all kinds of kids in Alabama. Hayden had a brother who aged out of the foster care system because, and I won't go into the entire story, but it was some severe trauma, not just physical and emotional, but beyond that, just trauma within their home. Fortunately, Hayden was never exposed to that. Unfortunately, her brothers and sisters were.
Yeah.
And her oldest brother, there's just some trouble in the home, was not able to, the foster parents that were planning, they ended up being the adoptive parents for her sisters, were not able to adopt them, and they ended up aging out of foster care.
Yeah.
And I don't know that Alabama has an agency like Connections Homes, and so it'd be good to get you guys connected. So
One thing I like about the organization too is not everybody can be a foster parent. That's a lot to ask of
yeah,
somebody.
it is.
And I've seen her do it over the course of 10 years, and easy it is not.
Yeah.
And what I think is really cool about the Connections Home model is you can have a calling, but you don't have to take on quite as much as being a foster parent.
Yeah.
You just have to be there. You just have to be available. They don't have to live with you. You don't have to become their adoptive parent.
That's a lot.
But you just need to be there for their heart and for their mind.
Yeah.
And it's a lot less, not challenging, but demanding of a role than the actual foster parent of a minor.
Yeah, but simultaneously, don't underestimate the value of simply, not everybody can have let's use a body analogy. Not everybody's going to be an entire body, right?
Yes.
But you can be a finger and you can be a hand.
Yes.
There are times where I need just a finger. There are times when organizations like that just need that. And simultaneously, you have young children of your own. Foster children have been traumatized, and not to put a label on anyone. My mom's a counselor. I fully understand trauma, but that comes with that, unfortunately, is some baggage sometimes. And when you have young children of your own, you really have to think first about the safety of them. As much as you love and care for and have a heart for these foster kids, you cannot endanger your own children for that sake. So this gives you a way to be involved without having to do that.
Yeah, that's why I had to stop serving as a foster parent. I had over 50 kids in my home, 55, 56 or so. But I adopted the two young ones out of foster care. And I did teens. And I'm telling you, the police, the ambulance, the fire department was at my house every other day, it seemed like.
Yeah.
There is a lot of trauma. There is, taking in girls. I'm telling you, 100% of them have been raped, at 13, 14 years old, 15 years old. What do you do with that? How do you unpack it? And so that's why I had to stop fostering. But doubling back to the Connections Homes, you talk about a finger. There was one youth I remember specifically, and all he wanted was a cupcake with a candle for his birthday. There wasn't anybody to remember it was his birthday and to call him and to say happy birthday. That was it. He could, if he could just have an adult who can remember his birthday every year, that's all he wanted. And it goes a little bit further than that, but at a minimum, it has that, you call your own children when it's their birthday and say happy birthday. And hopefully get them a cake or something. But
Yeah.
that's such a small want. And it's
Or like, come to Thanksgiving.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah.
or there's just a random call of like, hey, I had a bad day at work. I'd like to just vent. You
Yeah.
know, as the people that did not grow up in foster care and aged out of foster care, these are things that don't even hit our radar because we grow up with communities that these kids and these now adults don't have. And so I think what Pam started is absolutely amazing because it is more easily accessible for people to get involved in the foster care system. But I think it ends up being even more impactful. It has some challenges because you're dealing with people with trauma, but you remember more about your a young adult life and your adult life than you do about your childhood sometimes. And those lessons are sometimes more meaningful because it's things like what you have to do every year for insurance. Or how do you accept a job offer? Or like, you know, what does this light mean in my car? You know, so remember these things, and it's just a really cool.
You're right. I mean, we take those soft skills and we call them soft skills, but sometimes they're hard skills too.
They're basic life skills.
Yeah, life skills. That's right. We take that for granted a lot of times. The son that I adopted, Blaine, who's 19 now at college. I remember when he first came to live with us. He walked in the door, and at the time we were living in Auburn, Alabama. I was planting a church down there, and we had the really high ceilings. I have since learned that really high ceilings also mean really high electric bills. So I don't have high ceilings anymore. But he walked in, we had those high ceilings, and he's like, wow, it's a castle. And all he had was a Mickey Mouse jacket and a Walmart bag and the clothes on his back. But the one thing that he was fascinated with, and it took us years to figure out what was going on, but every time somebody would come into the house, he'd want to know, are you going to take your shoes off? That was the first question he asked when someone would come into our house. Are you going to take your shoes off? We're like, well, buddy, why does it matter if they take their shoes off? You know, and after they leave, he'd be like, who was that lady that had the shoes on with the yellow stripe and the purple spot? We're like, I wasn't watching her shoes, buddy. I'm not sure who you're talking about. And to this day, I told him jokingly, I said, son, I said, the expense for your college is going up because the university contacted us and said, you need a separate room for your shoes. He's fascinated with shoes to this day. We finally figured out that shoes represented for him who he could attach to. Who are you permanent in my life? Are you going to stick around? If you take your shoes off, I can attach to you because you're going to be a permanent part of my life. If you don't take your shoes off, I know I can't trust you. I can't attach to you. But so I need to know, are you going to take your shoes off? So I know how to act and who to love.
Really cool. And you think about, well, you need parents on the journey, but in doubling back to Christ, you need Christ on the journey. I will tell you that, and you know this, that Gabrielle and I, we always say our third partner is Christ. We pray when, for thanks, and we pray for when we need something, just like we would do with our own lives. But that's why you mentioned Youth for Christ. That's why that's the other organization that I serve. And when I'm a board member, I'm an active board member. They are going out into the schools. I didn't even know it was possible, but they are going out into the schools. As you know, your wife being a teacher, and I didn't know it was like they are teaching Christ to middle school and high schoolers. Metro Atlanta. And it's like, that's who you need for the journey. You need parents and you need Christ. And for the journey, and it's getting them to know Christ. And our executive director, Mike McAuliffe, he was a teen. He came to Youth for Christ actually in Florida, in Vero Beach, where I was from too. I've lived there. And he came just to play basketball. And now he's the executive director of Metro Atlanta Youth for Christ. And we're trying to get into all the different schools. And in my life, when I've met people who've had problems with their kids, I tell them, I go, I don't know how to do this, but get them to church.
Yeah.
Get them to church. You're either following their friends, they're either following their friends, or they're following God.
Yeah.
And that's where you want to put them on that path.
Yeah.
And so that's where it's worthwhile, because that's modern day apostles. That's why this is modern day apostles.
Yeah.
You talk about discipleship, you need to, that's how you do it. You go out to the children.
Yeah.
And hopefully they'll teach their children.
That's exactly right. Yeah. In fact, I mean, that is a topic of the book that I'm writing now. I was working on chapter 6 today, the final chapter, I hope. This has been a labor of love. But it's mentor me, and what you're talking about, what we've talked about, not just, I mean, in the workforce, you need mentors, because I don't know what colleges are teaching graduates today, but they're not teaching them the skills they need to run a business. You have to train that in the workplace today.
Yes.
My son, his degree, he's been saying since he is in 9th grade or 10th grade, he wanted to be an entrepreneur. That's great, son, but entrepreneur just means you own your own business. What's your own business? You got to think about what you're going to do, And I just want to own my own business. Well, again, that's great. So you got to learn some skills. Good for you. In other words, what you're saying, you want to wake up at 6 a.m., you will be in the office at 6:30 a.m. and you will get home at midnight, and you will do that all over again the next day. That's what you're saying you want to do. Now, what is it that you love so much that you want to do that for that long every day for the next 40 years while you build that business? And then you pass that along to your kids, but they are, one of the things I love about his degree with entrepreneurship is a business degree, but they give them, like, he's in Nashville. So they get to work on the Super Bowl ads. When the Super Bowl was in Nashville, they got to work on the ad agency with designing that.
So fun.
What? Yeah. I mean, that's real world experience, right? So they graduate, and it's not just that. I mean, it's music industry there. So they get to work in the music industry alongside some of these record label executives and people like that, learning the ins and outs of the music industry. If you want to be a music entrepreneur. So they get kind of a taste of everything, but they're learning hard skills and soft skills of leadership and tenacity and things like that. But they're getting hard skills that they can take into the workforce with them. And so we need those mentors at all levels. We need those in the workforce. We need those and they need to be godly leaders as well. And you're talking, and we've got to go here. I know you guys have a lot going on, but last funny story here. We're talking about foster care. One of my favorite conversations when we were doing foster care was the lady from the Department of Human Resources called us up and said, "Hey, Mr. Skinner, Reverend Skinner, we have," this is after we'd already adopted our 2 kids. "We have another young lady that needs at least temporary home, and said we're trying to find somebody to adopt her. We've got several feelers out from existing home members, but we need somebody to keep her in the meantime." We're like, "Okay, well, that's fine." And she was, she told the age and all that. I don't want to get too specific, but they called up and said, "Well, the only thing is we need to know if you honor her religion." And I said, I'm a pastor and I'm a Christian. I said, I'm not going to tie her down and do an exorcism or anything like that. But certainly, we'll be going to church every Sunday. It's going to be hard to grow up in my home and not hear the word Jesus Christ and, pray and read your Bible and, the things that we do in Christianity that shape us. It's going to be hard to hide that from this young lady. And I said, so what religion is she? And he said, well, she's Wiccan. And I said, oh. I said, okay. Well, I said, no, I'm probably not going to honor that. Well, we're not sure you can take her then. And okay. So she said, well, I'll get with my boss. So, a couple of days later, she called back. Well, I talked to my boss and they said it's okay if you don't honor her religion. I said, okay. But I said, no, when I say I'm not going to honor it, we're not going to, kill chickens in my front yard either. Right. I said, we're not going to bark at the moon. We're not going to do that. these things. I'm not sure my HOA would allow me to have chickens in my front yard anyway. But so she's like, okay, Mr. Skinner, we understand what you're saying. But anyway, we ended up taking that young lady in, and then one year, she one day she went to school, and this was back when swine flu was going around, and so that was before COVID even happened. But this was like the pandemic that we thought might have happened before, and it never turned into anything. But at the time, the schools were kind of panicking. This young lady went to school and told all of her teachers that she had been exposed to swine flu. Fortunately, my wife worked next door to school next door. They knew her, so they called her and said, "Hey, this girl has said she's exposed to swine flu. We've got her in quarantine at front office. You need to come get her." My wife's like, "No, she has not been exposed to swine flu. So and so just had a cold, but it was not swine flu," and they go through that. Those are the challenges that you face in foster care, but there's a lot of humor involved if you can look back as well. Sourced
before COVID, Jeff, I had because I had teens, and I'm sitting in the front row in church we're Catholic, with two young, I guess they're teens, who had no faith, and then one Muslim. And she came to church. Wow. And she sat in church, she didn't know, but she was just curious of what it's all about. And you never know what they're going to get. And it's really not ours to do. It's God's to do, right?
Yeah.
You just bring them there and let God work on them.
Yeah. There you go. Look, I say Christianity has to be caught before it's taught. And that goes back to that being a faithful witness. And look, none of us are perfect. I don't mean to, what I tell people more than anything, they want you to live your life authentically. Yes. My granddaddy, he had a third grade education. He tried to teach me to hammer nails and cut boards and things like that. I still don't know how. I mean, he'd complain because I, hold the hammer too tight. Just rear back and hit it, son. And, I'd rear back and miss. But what I did catch.
Yeah, we all have our gifts.
What I did catch was his faith, was his tenacity and his love for the Lord. He didn't teach me to kneel down every evening and pray like it all depended upon him, and work like it all depended upon him. He'd get up at 5. He didn't teach me to wake up at 5 a.m. and go to work and then come home and tend 4 gardens and then go and visit his parishioners in their homes and then wake back up and then come in and eat dinner and pray till time to go to bed and then start all over again the next day. He didn't teach me that, but I did catch that. So that's what you're talking about there.
That's the more important thing to catch.
Yeah. Hey, ladies.
How to follow the Lord than to hammer a nail properly any day.
Yeah, there you go. It is so good having y'all. And thank you for the work that you're doing for me and for serving the Lord, especially. Sourced is the name of their company. Get Sourced at their website. Go there, check them out. If you have a business, I promise you, it's some of the best money you'll invest as to, because you're not just hiring, one person, you're hiring the entire team. And, there are times that I email them and meet with them and just brainstorm with them, just trying to flesh things out. And it's just good to have sounding board from time to time, and that's what they do. They are there for you. So I encourage you to call these ladies, these Christian ladies, because I promise you, they love the Lord and they will serve you. It's great having y'all.